and then I went to India after that, chasing the Dalai Lama, you know. So I'm just gonna go meet the Dalai Lama. Of course, anyone can do that. Surely that's easy, right?
Mr. J. Grant, how are you?
Hey, Steven, it's good to see you, buddy. It's been a long time. Great to reconnect.
Absolutely. Look, I've been watching you travel the world and write a book and get into Zen mode. I guess a lot of spirituality that's going on with you. Man, why
Yeah.
don't you just go ahead and jump in from the get-go, wherever you want to start, and just tell us about your journey?
Well, as you know, I met you in Los Angeles. I lived in LA for 15 years, and Gold's was fantastic, wasn't it? I mean, just what a circus that place was. It was just so full of wonderful characters and famous people. I mean, I got to bump into some of my heroes at Gold's
Who are
Gym.
the
So,
heroes? Tell me, like, who are they?
oh well, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger came up and interrupted me while I was training. He just wanted to get a quick set in, and to be honest, I think he saw I had a Vidiots t-shirt on, which was the last video shop in Santa Monica.
The last time I saw you was in Venice. What happened to you after? Where did you go?
Yeah, yeah. Was that around the time that Heist came out? Just blew me away. I didn't even know that you were working in the film industry. I didn't know anything. I didn't know that side of you at all.
That's
So,
what.
one day we're training together at Gold's Gym, and then the next day you're like a film director and producer and actor. And I was like, hang on a second, when did all this happen? Astonishing cast for that film. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that blew me away. That really did.
Thank
So
you. Well, it's a lot of dedication and drive, a lot of resilience there to get that going.
yeah, well, I mean, I'd love to hear more about how that that process all came about, um,
Absolutely,
and how
absolutely.
you managed to get such a strong cast. I mean, that was astonishing.
Well, I think content is important, and then to talk about what you're doing here, you're creating content right now. You touch it if you can touch a nerve with your audience, whatever that audience is, whether
Mm.
it's a movie star or it's somebody reading a book or somebody watching your videos. I think it's about, yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what it is. And I think this visceral perspective, if you can tap into that, you're traveling and you're writing, and I want to hear about that.
I went traveling b because LA just kind of kicked the crap out of me, to be honest. It,
Hmm.
things went downhill all of a sudden rapidly, and I was doing well in LA. I was having a great time, and a great relationship. I had prospects. Things were on the up and up and up, and then like in one fell swoop, it all just kind of came crumbling down. So that was
What year was
unexpected.
that?
Guessing it was around yeah, early 2000s. Yeah, I had a relationship fall apart. I had a mentor that I was working with and trusted, and he did the dirty on me. And
Oh
then
no.
yeah, I had a great job at an NPR station and was doing video, directing live music broadcasts for this radio station, live to air, live directing, doing a lot of camera work and editing and stuff like that. And they just, well, they just decided on one day that they didn't really value their video department. So I kind of got booted out unceremoniously after putting in a lot of free time, a lot of free time.
Anyway, now I remember because I'm a little confused. I want to also clarify for the audience. You were in music and composing. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Like I'm an Aussie, but when I was in my early 20s, I shifted to the UK, and was working as a radio producer in the UK and did that for a long time. And it was a really fantastic part of my life. Ended up at Radio 1 in London, and that's when I started to gravitate to doing music production, because there was I was in the upper echelon of musicians coming into the station, and I had the skills as a producer, and I thought, why am I doing radio when I could be doing music? So I started making music beds and jingles, and then I did a lot of TV work.
Radio One is a big deal because we don't know.
Well, it was back then, maybe not so much these days. It was a huge deal in the sort of well 70s, 80s, and 90s,
Okay.
and then yeah, so it was supposed to be the BBC's youth station, but the funny thing was that all the DJs were getting old, and they were getting really old. They were still super famous and everyone loved them, but it became a little bit of a parody of itself. And so
Interesting.
they made a big effort to bring in a lot of fresh, young blood into the station, and that was around the time that I joined. They were going through transformations, but yeah, it was a huge deal to work at Radio
Okay.
1. That
All right.
was
You did that, and then when did you decide to come to the U.S.?
Well, I was in a relationship with my ex-partner, fantastic woman called Sarah, and and still is a music composer. So she had been making inroads into LA. She was doing film composing, and so I just was on her coattails, really, coming into
Oh, I
LA.
see.
We came for a couple of visits to see how things were going. And I
Mhm.
was also dabbling in TV music. Yeah, things started to click for me as well while I was in LA. I stayed and she went back to the UK eventually. So, but that's
Wow,
another story.
isn't it crazy, man?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, yeah.
life.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
You
man.
come and
That's
then
that kind
something
of thing.
happens, you go.
Yeah, I've always been like that. I'm always like, if an opportunity presents itself, I tend to say yes. If it scares the crap out of me, I definitely say yes.
Oh,
You know?
interesting. Okay, so your background was music, videos, composing, and then
Yeah.
you things came crumbling down in Los Angeles. What happened then?
Yeah. So I was like, okay, what do I do? Where do I go? I didn't thought I don't want to go back to Australia. I don't want to go back to the UK. I can't stay in LA. It's definitely time for a shift. And I thought, man, you know what? There was just this whisper in my ear, just kept saying,
Yeah.
Catman, Kathmandu, Kathmandu. Kathmandu. So I was like, I had no clue about Nepal. I had no real
Oh,
understanding
wow.
about what it might mean to go to Nepal. I had been to India once, and I found it very challenging, but I also really liked it.
Okay.
And so I just bought a one-way ticket to Nepal, and I
When?
sold everything. This was at the end of 2018. So everything that I own, I gave away, sold, abandoned, bought a one-way ticket to
Your Jeep. You had a Jeep, right?
yeah, I sold the Jeep. Yeah, I got good money for the Jeep too. It was in good condition. Man, that was a great ride. I loved
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, and I just jumped on a plane and landed at Kathmandu airport with not a clue about where I was going to
Wow.
stay, what I was going to do, and just let
Wow.
things unfold. Yeah, and I didn't even realize that I was in the middle of a story or beginning a story. It wasn't until a few weeks in when I met a monk in Bodhanath at Bodhanath Stupa in Kathmandu, and this all gets explained in the book how it all came around. And this he was an Australian guy. He was about my dad's age. He had my dad's name, and I was like, oh, there's these little serendipities going on, you know. And it was a real strange circumstances the way that I met him. And he said, "You look, man, you're here." You just follow the omens. Just follow the omens. That was his advice to me, right? And
Mm.
for him, omens were birds, rainbows, butterflies, dogs, crows. When you have a thought, if you have a thought, wait, look, what do you see? Do you see something nice? Do you see something pleasant? Do you see something attractive? That means go with your thought. And you smell a bad smell or you see something unpleasant, that's a sign. Don't go with that thought.
Interesting.
That's so interesting. I never had thought. And is that really the way to go about living your life? You know, just waiting for these signs from the spirits. And I thought, you know what? I don't believe, but I'm going to give it a damn good go. And I'm just going to try it. I'm going to try it and see how it goes. And yeah, so the adventure began that way. That's how it.
So when you say you don't believe, you mean you were not spiritual?
I've always been a spiritual person, but I've always required some little bit of evidence, you know, something that just grounds it to reality in some way. I'm not one of these airy fairy woo floaty guys, right? You know, it has to come back to reality in some way, and it has to hit in a way that feels real. And that was my struggle. That's why the subtitle of the book is A Skeptic's Guide to Enlightenment. No, so I had to change it. A Skeptic's Quest for Enlightenment. Yeah.
Quest is better. So you met this guy, you're following the cues of the universe. What
Mhm.
happens then?
Well, I asked him for a bit of concrete advice, right? Because I wasn't just gonna, wander around waiting for butterflies and rainbows. So I said, look, I really want, I really want some practical advice. And so in Buddhism, it's all about the lamas, the teachers, the high lamas, the reincarnated masters, and these are the guys that you need to meet, to bump into, to get to know. So. He suggested that I go to a particular monastery that has a famous lama and also happens to be a school for Westerners that accepts Westerners as students. So that was the beginning.
Are you saying that most schools don't accept Westerners? Is that what you're saying?
There are a lot of monasteries in Nepal and India, Buddhist monasteries that won't have. I mean,
Okay.
you can visit, but you can't live there and study there.
Interesting.
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
well, I'm not 100% sure about that. Perhaps they all do have little guest houses, but this one in particular welcomes Westerners, and it has massive, massive courses. I mean, I was there for a November course, and there were, I think, nearly 200 students came for that
Wow.
course.